we're published. Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I am your host, Joe Prano, coming to you live from the Smut Studio in Venice Beach, California, with the greatest co-host in the history of the Dirty Sports Podcast besides Joe Prano, Mr. Tug Coker.
Hello, Joe.
Tug, how are you doing on this fine Thursday morning?
I feel incredible. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's sunny out in Venice. Weather's perfect. Or maybe it's because Andy is off in Catalina because he contracted mono.
Andy going full Sam Darnold.
He did.
The same week as Sam Darnold, he contracts mono.
It's tough to watch.
And we've quarantined him to an island. We have sent him out to the island of Catalina.
Flew his mom in to take care of him.
Flew his mom in, just like when he got the denting. His mom came rushing to town to take care of him. She said, I don't want you to get Twerks sick. I don't want you to get Tug or Joe sick.
Nope.
So I'm going to take you down to Catalina.
Where the buffalo roam.
Where the buffalo roam. And we're going to get you healthy. She's nursing him back to life. We are doing this without Andy. He threw us a couple of Indiana Jones-style booby traps.
He did.
He one-eyed Willied the Smut Studio to try to keep us out from going live. But we've both put on our sunglasses, and we're ready to go.
Our hater blockers are on.
So I think in honor of Andy's absence, we should start the last place that Andy would ever start. Let's talk U.S. Open tennis, Doug.
Let's do it. Last time we were together, we did hockey. Right now, we're going right into tennis.
We went live from Wimbledon.
What a year we've had in tennis. Like you and I getting up early, 4 a.m. to watch the French. We recapped Wimbledon.
Oh, that's right. It was the French that we watched live.
That's correct. 4 a.m. We called Michael Costa. Michael Costa, who was lucky enough to be at the U.S. Open final on Sunday, watching what I thought was an incredible match. I don't know how much of it you actually caught.
I watched a lot of it.
It's a great match.
It was on in the background.
And I thought Nadal, for all of us tennis fans out there, all 5 of you and me, and Joe now, Joe's showing some real fandom going to the tournament this year.
Went to Indian Wells. I don't want to say I gave Bianca Andreescu the Dirty Sports bump, but she won that one while I was there.
See, yeah, we had no idea who this person was, but you did.
Yeah.
You knew all along this girl had talent. And she took Serena, really took her behind the woodshed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the first time I've ever seen Serena. I've seen Serena be nervous in the past because she's trying to tie the record for most majors. And she's tight trying to win the first major after, becoming a mom. But this is the first time I ever thought she just got beat by someone better than her.
Yeah.
Like age actually caught up with her a little bit. So.
Well, that's what I want your take on. She obviously will tie and break this majors record eventually. She's not done.
No.
But this Canadian, 18 years old?
She might be
19 now?
Yeah.
She was 18 when she was at Indian Wells,
right.
So maybe she had a birthday. Is there a passing of the torch ceremony happening in this actual event?
Too hard to say. Again, small niche audience here. Women's tennis, it's just too hard for people to stay on top. Serena is such an anomaly because nobody stays on top for long. You see people spike, get a major, and be never heard of again. Marion Bartoli won Wimbledon several years ago, retired after she won Wimbledon.
I don't know who that is.
Exactly, not supposed to.
I was pretty sure that was somebody who hosted a cooking show.
she may do that now.
Yeah.
Over in France, and on French TV. But so many people have had just a meteoric rise, grab a major or lose in the finals. Jeannie Bouchard is another example because she's a Canadian who made it to the Wimbledon finals. And has really struggled to get back, and now she's just known more for her Instagram. So check out Eugenie Bouchard for her Instagram fun.
And then the men's final that you talked about.
Really
You
exciting.
are a Federer guy.
I'm a Federer guy.
Like every basic white chick, you are a Federer.
I'm a white chick, all through and through.
Rosé, all day.
All day.
Roger Federer hat.
Absolutely.
Your RF hat.
Get my RF. It's not just white chicks, dude. When I went to Wimbledon last year, all of India is a fan of Roger. All of any part of Asia is a fan of Roger.
Now
He's captured the world.
Was nowhere to be found in this U.S. Open.
Huge missed opportunity losing in the quarters, knowing that Djokovic went out to Stan Wawrinka in like the 4th round. He was on Federer's side. Djokovic was on Federer's side of the draw. Federer had a real opportunity, and I think that he got tight. He got tight. He had people. He had Dimitrov in his bracket, who in the tennis world is known as Baby Fed. They call him Baby Fed because he's got similar style of game, kind of got that fluidity that Federer has, and he's never beaten Federer in 7 matches. But nobody beats Baby Fed 8 times in a row.
And I hate to go all like MAGA here, but I was rooting for the Russian in the final because
you like a good troll.
I like a good troll, and I also like that this guy was he was saying I bring it on, boo me,
Yes.
I want to hear it. He was
And I think in New York,
I liked his attitude.
And New Yorkers were excited to boo him, but they also learned to love him. Like they love that.
They came all the way around in this thing.
Exactly. Don't tell me what to do. But they go home and say, I love that guy. So it's I was rooting for him too. I tweeted out that Nadal was playing cousin Greg from Succession because because he's got he was so gangly. Like he like most 6 guys who aren't like NBA players. They just have a weird gait to them, like a weird movement around the court.
Yeah.
And he impressed me because he's
cousin Gregory now, by the way.
Oh, I heard this. I heard this in the latest. He prefers Gregory now. I need to catch up.
Have you not watched the latest episode?
I've only seen the first 1 or 2 of the 2nd season because I have a kid. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler, I impregnated my wife 2.5 years ago.
Just to put a button on this match, Nadal is so dominant. Nadal, I don't bring out the initials TW around Joe because I know he doesn't like it. But he reminds me of heyday Tiger when you had to play your best to beat Rafa. Rafa doesn't make mistakes. And he was up 2-1, and then he actually was 2-0.
Yeah.
And Medvedev comes back to win the next 2 sets, which is very impressive. Sends it to 5 sets. One thing, and Costa talked about this on his podcast. Nadal got a little chippy. The rules in tennis are you play at the pace of the server. Nadal is known notoriously as being a very slow player, to the point where they've initiated a shot clock in tennis.
Right.
Pretty much for Nadal.
Yeah.
He had a shot clock violation early on in the match. But and one of the strategies against Nadal is to play quickly. Now, Medvedev decided to play faster, and a couple times Nadal said wait, which is really a no-no in tennis.
Yeah.
And the umpire should have basically been a little more alpha and said, Rafa, no, this is not your moment. When he serves, you be ready. And so I think it caused a little bit of, it was a little irksome for fans of tennis out there. And I think that added to the love of seeing Medvedev try to take down
Goliath. You know who I root for in every tennis match?
Who?
I root for the person that's just winning gracefully, winning points gracefully. Forget the match overall. Just like when these players hit a point and then they're like, yeah, they turn to the crowd. I'm like, I mean, it's 1 point in a fucking tennis match.
So you're a Federer guy.
I'm kind of a Federer guy. Yeah. I was a big fan when I watched who was the number 1 women's seed that went out after she beat the 15-year-old American girl, and they had a very graceful on-court interview.
Yes. She's Japanese.
Yeah.
I forget her name. She'd won 2 majors, hard court majors in a row.
Yeah.
Yes, and she said, "Come do the interview with me."
And the whole time, like every time the Coco would hit a shot, that was great. She kind of gave her the clap on the racket.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, look at her. She's like supporting. Like, that's a great shot. Like, nothing I can do about that. Great shot. Meanwhile, when Coco's hitting shots, she's like, let's go. And I'm always rooting for whoever's winning more gracefully, winning their points more gracefully.
I got to say I'm surprised by that because, I think of you as a guy who's a little bit brash, not afraid to throw his personality around. So, and I think maybe in some sports, but you are an Eli guy, and Eli's like that as well. But I think that's part of the reason why so many people love Federer, because he does win with grace. And the most emotion you'll see out of sometimes, he'll do like a little cheer when he wins a big match, but he does this cool little racket wiggle, like just a little racket wiggle.
Which you do with the microphone.
Absolutely.
After
a great point, or like I get you to laugh. I'll go silent for a second. It's pretty awesome.
Now, I think that should be sufficient tennis talk for Andy Ruther to have had a brain aneurysm and be dead on the island of Catalina.
The last thing I want to say, and we'll put this to rest, is that Federer has 20 majors, disaster year for Federer. Federer has 20 majors. We started the year with Nadal having 17. He won the French. He won the U.S. to get to 19. And also on the heels is Djokovic. I think he got to 17, I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he went, and from losing, Federer had Wimbledon on his racket.
Yep.
To get to 21. To separate again, because you got to feel like Nadal's going to win the French again next year, automatic to 20. Really just, if you're thinking of all time, if you're looking at guys all time.
So now this is the question and this will really kill Andy that we're still doing this. But this is the question I wanted to ask you, because we did the French live stream, and there was the 10 people watching. It was split pretty evenly, 5 and 5. There was 5 Nadal's the GOAT, 5 Federer's the GOAT. But Djokovic is right there, and he has a winning record head-to-head against both of them. And he doesn't have one single major dominance like Nadal with the French. So is he low-key? If he ends up with the most, and he's got a head-to-head against both, isn't that I mean, how do you argue not go?
I have to agree. Like, listen, I'm a Federer fan. Like, I was a Stefan Edberg fan for you, the 5 people that are still listening.
We're trying to crush this. Live stream.
I love elegance.
We want to get no people in the live stream.
No
by the time
oh God, I'm out of here. We just gave you mono by listening to tennis.
I hope you're ready for some FIBA basketball talk after this.
Well, Federer is my favorite player, but I think I don't think he'll go down as the greatest because, like you said, Nadal, his ability to, even though Federer has a winning record against Nadal outside of clay surfaces, Nadal still beat him in bigger matches. And Djokovic, I think, has always given Federer some fits, especially in the last half of his career, and he kind of owns Nadal in some big matches. So I agree with you. I think that Djokovic has a chance, if he stays healthy and stays focused, to become the greatest player of all time. Have we done it?
That's it. That's tennis. That was Talking Tennis with Tug Coker.
Talking Tennis with Tug.
The pre-show. That wasn't even live. Now we're going to go live. Tug, we have a lot of sports to talk about. Tennis is obviously a sport. Don't want to say it's not a sport, but we have a lot of sports to talk about. We obviously have week 2 of the NFL upon us. We are going to save that for the end. I'm going in order here, and we'll
did you create the rundown, or did Andy create it for you?
I created the rundown.
I love this.
I created the rundown.
Andy says you don't do any of the menial task work. And then I got this in my inbox this morning showing me the rundown. A tear came to my eye.
I created the rundown, and I threw things on there that I knew Andy would have just blown through had he been here. He's not talking basketball. He's not talking a couple of major milestones in the MLB. He would have probably had some college football conversation on there. But we have a couple things to talk about before we get to week 2 of the NFL. The first one, couple basketball stories. Let's start with the biggest basketball story. Kobe Bryant trolling a 7-year-old girl on Instagram. It was a little confusing the way Kobe put it up.
Give a little backstory.
It was a little confusing the way Kobe put it up. A lot of people are thinking that Kobe has just called out one of his players for missing a game and them taking 4th place. What he actually put up was a victory post, his team beating another team like 140-12 or something like that, and then a throwback to 2 years ago. This same team lost to Kobe's team lost to the same team they just blew out, like 22-21. And he was talking about all the changes in their lineup, in their roster since that time. But he specifically threw one girl under the bus as she was missing because she was at a dance recital. And he then says, I guess we know where her priorities are. So Kobe Bryant trolling a girl on Instagram for attending a dance recital instead of an AAU basketball game at, like, literally age 8 years old. And Kobe Bryant, worst human being of all time or worst human being of all time?
You hate to see it because
I love to see it.
Well, I know you do.
I love to see it. I like the whole world is waking up to what anybody with eyes and, like, an understanding of body language and, like, human interaction knew about Kobe Bryant 15 years ago.
The sadness is that Kobe has tried to immerse himself into the art world. He's won an Oscar somehow.
If you look at his Twitter bio, it says nothing about basketball. It says like producer, editor.
Producer, editor, working on improving himself and ingraining himself in the arts world, and takes an absolute shot at a child who's trying to, I don't know, just be a kid.
Be a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just tried to qualify it. I saw on Twitter he tried to correct his, what he meant, but
yeah. Well, he just denied it. He just straight up denied it. People called him out for trolling this girl, and he said, simply not true. And I just don't know how you misread what he said as anything but a shot at her for missing it for a dance trial. He literally says, I guess we know her priorities were.
It's true, and I honestly think that he should give his Oscar back because he doesn't care about the arts, and he doesn't care about anything post-career besides just being a bad teammate again. Once again, we
trashing Shaq.
Yeah, exactly. So you really hate it. It was a bummer for me as a person who's trying to raise two boys, but maybe that's the secret now. Maybe because I wanted them to be great, so maybe I need to tell them where their priorities need to be.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the point.
And Andy threw a shot at Kobe on Twitter with a 5 for 23 in
Game 7.
Or
6 for 24 in Game 7.
Yeah, 5 for 23 is his playoff under 10 seconds with a tie or within 1 point shots. He shoots some horrific number, and a lot of people took umbrage with that, saying, what do Kobe's shooting stats have to do with it? Well, he called out a girl for not showing up. Meanwhile, in the biggest moments of his career, he simply did not show up. He was horrific when it came down to it. He was horrific in Game 7. He was horrific in multiple. I mean, the 4 airball game. His shooting numbers under 10 seconds. Just the irony of Kobe calling somebody out for not showing up. Maybe what that girl needed was Shaq to drive her from the dance recital to the basketball game so she could do both, to literally carry that girl from one to the other. Well, that would have been Kobe approved.
This team that he coached, they lost 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
This is another. He didn't post this, but he actually brought in Pau Gasol's daughter for this year to win the title. So, you have to dig deeper on these Instagram posts, guys. He brought in a few recruits to get him over the hump.
Yeah, the smiling girl with great hair, great flowing hair. That's Pau Gasol's daughter.
That's right. So, yeah, he got his comeuppance there. I mean, Kobe.
Speaking of European legend Pau Gasol, let's talk about the United States basketball team losing and being eliminated from the tournament by France.
They lost again last night.
Yeah. My boy Frank Ntilikina.
They lost again last night, and they were down 30. I think 30-7 in the first period last night. Came back to tie it, and before losing to Jokic and a bunch of, I believe was it Serbia?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if USA is getting off the hook because of the time zone. No one's really watching these games.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Does anyone care? Do you care?
Well, I care in this sense. One, I believe in American exceptionalism. We have pride. We like to win.
This is you bringing a bit of Andy Ruther to your seat today. America's the best.
America's the best. Do I ultimately care? No.
Chili and cheeseburgers, and sometimes chili and cheeseburgers together. That's what America does.
That's what we do. But have you seen the roster? It's not good. This roster is not good.
It's not good, but there's still more star NBA players or second-tier NBA players or even third-tier NBA players than on any other team in the world, right? There's no team that has more, 20-point NBA scorers than the USA team.
It's true. I guess what I mean is it's not good in the sense that we're still missing the top half of our team. The Serbia, Jokic is probably the best player on the floor.
Yeah, for sure.
So it'd be nice to have that game played when there's motivation involved. It's hard to care when you're both playing for 5th and 6th place. France has Rudy Gobert, I don't even know if my boy
and Frankie Smokes.
Yebusele, I don't know if he played or not, from a former Celtics.
What do you think of my theory that I've said on episodes before, which is the fact that these guys don't play together, then they end up picking guys. What tends to happen in the NBA is the best players are all these wing guys. So we have sort of a loaded, 10 guys who play the same position. What do you think of my theory that your Virginia Cavaliers with Joe Harris play this tournament, they win it all? A team that's played together.
Yeah.
You add some NBA talent that's from the NBA talented alumni. And, does Joe Harris with the current Cavaliers team and the guys who were just drafted who had all played together?
We could add Mike Scott, but he's too busy fighting in Philadelphia right now. So we can't fly him over. But yeah, it's an interesting idea because I think it would be. I don't think so. I don't think they're good enough to get over the hump, but I think it'd be probably more fun to watch. But that's what the TBT is for, guys.
I think those guys having played together, playing championship basketball this year, you add Joe Harris and just be like, look, you're going to score 50, and just let Joe Harris do his thing, and I think that's the world championship basketball team.
Who's my guy from BYU from years ago that got lit up?
Jimmer.
Yeah. Let's put Jimmer out there.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just make it a showcase.
Yeah. But those are the guys who excel in international basketball. The shooters.
Absolutely. Well, part of the problem is that, and I did follow this a little bit because there were 3 Celtics on this team, and I kind of wanted to see how Kimba was playing with the guys.
Oh, that's right. You're a Celtics fan. Hard to keep track of.
I know. It is hard to keep track. Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on, Torx. We gotta bring you in.
No, I was gonna actually ask you that question because there's 4 Celtics on the team. There's Brown, Smart.
Oh yeah, I forgot because Tatum was hurt. I guess Tatum was hurt.
4.
Yeah.
So is that concerning to you at all?
Not at all. Well, Jason Tatum was actually playing really well, and Pop was loving the way Jaylen Brown was playing this year. There's some articles coming out about Pop was loving the way he facilitates for the players. And Kimba, I think what you're seeing a lot of is a lot of stuff coming out sideways, a lot of passive-aggressive comments about how much fun they're having, which are all shots at Kyrie.
Right.
But one thing that I'll say is, that we need to track from this team is because a lot of these international teams, what happens is these are where relationships are formed. This is where you start to see Kyrie and Kevin Durant hang out. So I'm interested to see 2-3 years from now, are any of these players working together behind the scenes because they built a bond to play together in the NBA?
Do you think this is any sort of a black mark on Greg Popovich's legacy as a coach?
I think it's a good question. I was thinking about that.
Greg Popovich, sort of known for taking a ragtag bunch and turning them into Hall of Famers and being like, it's easy to get them to play together. Just listen to me. I honestly do think this is a bit of a.
I'm going to tell you why I don't think so. One, I love that Popovich is the coach because he's from the served in the armed forces or at least graduated from a military school. But the Achilles heel for Popovich is, what's his secret sauce? International players.
Yeah.
He has a weakness with American players. So I think he probably didn't quite know what to do because he's talking to them in English. He likes to talk to Ginobili in a different language, or Tony Parker, all these. LaMarcus Aldridge, I'm pretty sure, is not American. So I think I think it has a black eye on Popovich, but he knows that he's been handcuffed because he doesn't have a chance to draft, some guys in the late second round to stash them away for a few years and have them come back and be great.
I'm putting it as a small smudge.
Yeah, it's a smudge.
It's a fingerprint on the eyeglasses of Popovich's career. Yeah. And I'll also go ahead and say, if this team was coached by Mike D'Antoni, they'd be winning every game by 40 points. And I'm going to leave it at that.
I think that's a great call, actually. I mean, to see that coach D'Antoni coach in international would be awesome. I mean, it's a game he's used to.
Yeah.
I think that'd be super fun.
And he's been on the staff before.
Yeah.
Under Coach K. We move on to a little baseball. Just a couple of quick baseball things that we have to touch on.
I want you to do the heavy lifting. I followed up, but I know this is a sport that you're following.
Well, you're Mr. Gambling.
That's correct.
And there is rumors of, some Tug gambling things in the works here.
Oh yeah, there are.
I don't want to tease it too much. So I'm going to just hit you with a couple things. One, the Dodgers have clinched the NL West. They're the first team to clinch their division. As our gambling correspondent, how do you feel about the Dodgers World Series winning odds?
I don't know the exact number, but I still am concerned. And here's why. One, I'm interested to see how they play the back half of September. You know this as well as I do. You can see a lot of teams either get hot or ride momentum, or do they shut it down? How are they going to handle the pitching staff with the back half here? But I really have to say I like what the Astros did.
Right.
I mean, everyone's talking Yankees or Astros to me. Leaf blower.
We're going to go ahead and have you shut that window there, Twerk, since somebody is cutting up a dead body. With some sort of
Fargo up in here.
saw. So the Major League Baseball teams that are out there are a roulette board. You've got some money. How much are you scattering it around?
Yeah, it's a good call.
You're going heavy on the
Astros. I like the
Astros.
Astros because I just think that their pitching staff is great. I just think the way they go about assembling their team is top notch. Yankees, I'm not as invested in the Yankees because probably some emotion is in there. I'm not a big Yankees guy. Curious on the pitching staff there as well. Obviously, have some pretty loaded. The team I think is here's a team that I'm interested in sprinkling on. The Washington Nationals. Now
I picked the Nationals to win the NL East with the addition by subtraction of Bryce Harper. They're not winning the NL East. No one's catching the Braves, but the Nationals looking likely to make a wild card.
They have to win. Wild card there's a lot of variance in one game wild card. But if they get into the tournament, great pitching staff.
Absolutely, Scherzer, Strasburg,
and I think that plus the addition from subtraction, I think the Ewing theory is in play here.
How many of your 100 chips do you put on a Milwaukee Brewers team?
Oh my God.
Andy Ruther calls in and says your phone is flashing. How many of your 100 chips do you put on a Milwaukee Brewers team that is a half game out of the wild card with Christian Yelich breaking his own kneecap with a foul ball?
You have to imagine the odds sort of skyrocketed because of that. I went to a Dodgers-Brewers postseason game last year. A lot of shenanigans. I think that the game I went to, remind me of the manager for the
Craig
Brewers.
Counsell.
Craig Counsell, thank you. Started the pitcher for one batter.
Yep.
Then they brought in someone out of in the bullpen.
This is in the playoffs last year.
Playoffs game last year. Day game. Kershaw pitched. And who knows what you're going to get with Craig Counsell. I don't believe in the Brewers. I might throw, but I believe in making money. So I throw maybe 5 chips. Just a sprinkle. But I think I'd go more heavily with the Nationals right now. Do we believe in the Braves?
I believe in the Braves. I believe that the Braves could play in the NLCS. I do believe that. I think that if the Braves are playing the Dodgers, so right now it would work out that the Dodgers would have the wild card team. The Dodgers would have whatever team comes out of wild card. The division series would be Braves Cardinals, or Braves winner of the Central, basically. And I think the Cardinals win that series, but I certainly could see the Braves winning that series. So I see the Braves in the NLCS, but I think if they have to play a Dodgers or a Nationals that come out of a wild card, or and I can't believe I'm saying this because I did deem their season over just last week. Mets are now only 2 games back, but my point being, if a team gets in there with like crazy pitching like the Dodgers, Mets, and Nationals have, where you could just have a DeGrom or a Scherzer or a Strasburg or a Kershaw or a Buehler just go shove, and be a stopper, I think the Braves are going to have a hard time beating a team like that. So I could absolutely see the Braves in the NLCS. I don't love the Braves to appear in the World Series.
Is Bueller the de facto number one for the Dodgers in the playoffs?
I think so.
I agree.
I mean, he's not. He won't be their number one. They'll
agree.
pitch
I
Kershaw,
agree.
but yeah.
If you need to win one game, if the Dodgers need to win one game, who are you throwing out there?
Yeah.
I think it's Bueller, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing on baseball, last night, and it happened relatively early in the night, a home run was hit that broke the season home run record for all of baseball.
Yep.
Then there was like 30 more home runs hit last night after that. So
it's a celebration.
Yeah. The question is, obviously, are the balls juiced, which Justin Verlander has weighed in on. The gross home run totals are obviously an argument for. But you could also argue, hey, these guys, exit velocity and launch angle, and guys are throwing harder than ever, and we're moving our fences in, and we're playing, in all these, like, retro ballparks. And so you could make the argument that it wasn't, but here would be the argument against that. And this was a stat they flashed during the Mets game last night. Home runs hit in AAA in all of 2018 using a AAA baseball, 3,652. Home runs hit in AAA in all of 2019 after switching to the use of the Major League Baseball, 5,749. So over 2,000 more home runs hit in AAA this year with use of the Major League Baseball. Safe to say the baseball is juiced?
Can't be sure. Can't be sure. Don't have enough information. And I'm a Rob Manfred guy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it seems obvious to me, but
And also Justin Verlander's a good guy. I don't think he says that willy-nilly.
are Verlander and Kate Upton like the
Like America's are they like their American royalty?
they're like the Chrissy Teigen and John Legend of baseball.
I think first of all, I think they're both more talented than their counterpart in that other half.
yeah. Who you got?
Yeah.
Teigen, Legend?
Yeah.
Or
No,
Verlander
like
Upton?
if you go Teigen Legend, you're bad at choosing models and you're bad at like John Legend's pretty talented, but like I don't think anybody's like John Legend is the greatest musician we've seen in 20 years,
Right.
Like he's a pretty talented guy.
Talented, yeah.
Right? But I mean, Kate Upton blows. Chris Teigen's now hosting NBC's Bring the Funny.
She's getting into a fight with a person in power.
Yeah.
On social media, so it's very interesting. But I know Verlander and Upton are both.
I feel like they're our royal couple.
They're a royal couple.
I feel like they're Meghan Markle and fucking Prince Harry or whatever.
I couldn't agree more. Let's crown. You want to crown them?
Yeah.
Let's crown them.
American royalty.
The last thing I want to say, and I don't want to make this a somber moment, but I just want to be reflective on just a thought, because obviously this is the week of September 11th, and I was going through some highlights of like great moments from 2001.
Great moments on 9/11.
Great. Let's take a look back at the great moments of 9/11. 9/11. Let's take a look back.
It was a sunny morning. That was
It's a Tuesday morning.
Tuesday.
But so many of the moments that are used as moments to uplift America were about baseball.
Yes.
Two of the moments that everyone remembers is the George Bush throwing the baseball out. But I saw another one today
with the bulletproof vest on.
Yes, and he threw a strike. But the other one that I remember, I'm sure you think of dozens.
Yeah.
But Sammy Sosa
running
running
out
at
with the
full
American flag.
speed with the American flag and running it along the wall of Wrigley Field. And I'm just wondering, in the 18 years later, could baseball still have that sort of grasp on America? It's just interesting. I was just thinking about it. I was like,
yeah, because
also how far Sammy Sosa has fallen.
Right.
To think about, look at this
because
guy.
We also have the Mike Piazza home run
Yep.
in the first game back that he hit up the top of the fucking tower in center field. That was a big one. He's doing it with the Mets are wearing the first responders hats.
Oh yeah.
Which baseball did not let them wear last night.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that sort of answers your question.
It does. It does.
Rob Manfred did 9/11. Rob Manfred and Andy Ruther equally responsible. If you had to sprinkle 100 chips on George Bush, Andy Ruther, and Rob Manfred, how many you put on Rob Manfred did 9/11?
I used to think Andy had the most of those chips.
Yeah.
I'm concerned now.
Yeah. I don't know
interesting.
why Manfred's not letting them wear first responders hats. Seems super dumb. But shout out to Pete Alonso, rookie on a rookie contract, buying the whole team custom 9/11 remembrance cleats in each of their company of choices style. The polar bear is taking New York by storm.
No, I don't want to make light of 9/11, but great moments in 9/11. That's one of them.
Yeah,
Pete Alonso.
Pete Alonso.
Doing
Yeah,
great moments in 9/11.
we now, before we get to the NFL, which I know everybody's just salivating at, we have to talk college football, but this will be quick. I don't know how much of a college football guy you are.
I heard on the last podcast you wondered if I was a Texas fan.
Yeah, yeah.
You know I'm not, because I'm a fan of two other big schools, the Michigan Wolverines,
Right?
obviously.
Yeah.
I went to Virginia and I root for the Virginia Cavaliers, but my parents both went to Oklahoma. So if I have to choose between Texas and Oklahoma, it's always Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, I'm going to the Oklahoma UCLA game at the Rose Bowl this weekend with my father. And I just got to say, UCLA is 0-2. How bad is Chip Kelly? Is anyone's star fallen further or farther, whichever one that is, than Chip Kelly? I mean, what is happening? What has happened?
Chip Kelly. I mean, let's go through Chip Kelly's just recent career. Obviously, he had some sort of skyrocket from, I think it was like New Hampshire or Rhode Island, whatever, to Oregon.
Yeah.
Puts Oregon on the map. The fucking fast offense, and they're practicing at 1.5 speed, like you'd listen to a podcast.
That's right.
And basically puts Oregon on the map in terms of being a football program. Goes to the NFL, embarrasses himself with the Philadelphia Eagles, makes, in my opinion, like I still stand by Chip Kelly is an unabashed racist, cuts LaShawn McCoy.
Yep.
No, sorry, cuts Deshaun Jackson, trades
Trades
LaShawn McCoy for Kiko Alonso. Gives a contract extension to Riley Cooper coming off of an N-bomb tirade.
And then fights Mike Scott this weekend.
Yeah.
Flies back to Philly to fight Mike Scott.
Three guys, two of them black, gone. One of them a racist wide receiver.
Promoted.
Two of those three guys still in the league. One guy long gone.
Yep.
One guy gone for half of a decade at this point. Goes to the Niners, embarrasses himself. One and done? Was he one and done?
I think he was.
One and done, and now he's at UCLA, second year in, not looking good, and they're going to get just smoked by Oklahoma this week.
He's absolutely smoked this weekend. And year two,
I would get there at kickoff if I were you, Doug.
I'm actually angling to not go. Like, it's going to be such a bad game.
You just want to go to the golf course and just drink some beers.
Exactly, and some beers.
Throw some cornhole.
Some malted sparkling beverages, perhaps.
Is that a White Claw shout-out?
Maybe. Shout out White Claw. But it's really, this is year 2, year 3, if it gets to year 3.
Yeah.
Is when you have your guys. Year 1, maybe we understand you're playing with another coach's players. There is some reason for forgiveness. Year 2, usually also you kind of load your schedule to win your first. In college football, you're supposed to win your first couple games.
Yep.
You're going 0-2 into Oklahoma. Now you're 0-3. I just don't know. This has got to be it. I mean, he tried commentating. During the week, he better be working on his reel.
Now, you brought up you should be 2-0, 3-0 after this weekend if you're a major college football program. And that is because early in the year, there's usually 1 or 2 big games each weekend, but by week 3, week 4, then we go to cupcakes, then we get our conference schedule going. This week, there is not a single matchup between two top 25 teams. The game of the week, on a quick browse of the schedule, Iowa State. That's the game of the week in college football. It's a 2-point spread. It's a crosstown rivalry. One of those, Iowa is a top 25 team. Iowa State is not. There are no top 25. So I wrote, this is what I have under college football. Not a single top 25 matchup. Game of the week's Iowa State. Fuck college football. Please talk NFL. That's what I have.
I'm ready to do that. And I'll just say this. I'll give a a quick forward look. I heard Andy saying he's off the Jim Harbaugh train. One interesting thing about, it relates to NFL. Jim Harbaugh coached with Greg Roman at the Niners.
Gregory. He's going
by
Gregory
cousin
now.
Gregory Roman.
He's going by Gregory. Twerks, are you leaving to get me a Rolling Rock? Yeah, you are. That's my intern.
Yeah, that's right. That's my intern. But Greg Roman is responsible for building offenses around guys like Kaepernick. You see a lot of the success that they have with the Niners. And now he's engineering the offense behind Lamar Jackson. You see Lamar Jackson go off in week 1. So the question needs to be raised, who was really the offensive genius when Harbaugh was with the Niners? Because we still see Harbaugh loving to do the ground and pound thing. Not a lot of ingenuity in the offense. I will say
So
this.
have you sold your Harbaugh stock as well?
I have not. I want to see this year. We still, the other thing I want to say is Harbaugh is a unique guy.
He's got his Costco khakis.
He's got his Costco khakis.
He has throwback glasses.
We need to see him bring in a blue chip quarterback. Can we see him recruit as a guy who played in the NFL, got within 1 game of the Super Bowl, and has taken a team as a head coach to the Super Bowl? How are we not getting a 5-star quarterback to come in? So let's say no excuses. Shea Patterson, serviceable quarterback. Can we see someone who is potentially elite? Like Andrew Luck, for example, and let's see what you can do with them. Army, Andy jumped off the ship against Army. Army did take Oklahoma to the overtime in Norman last year, and that I read somewhere that in their games where they're playing top 25 teams, Army, in the last 20 games, they're like hitting it like a 75% clip against the spread. Like, you don't want to play Army.
Yeah.
And so, having said this, Wisconsin plays Michigan in Madison.
Now, as a person who roots for Notre Dame, Army's the first. They go, "Oh, you guys beat Army, good job."
Yeah. Well, Notre Dame plays Michigan in October, so we have a chance to solve that and answer that question. Virginia also plays Notre Dame in 2 weeks, but Michigan plays at Wisconsin. Wisconsin has given up 0 points in their first 2 games and scored 120-something points. They're not favored. Wisconsin is an underdog in Wisconsin against Michigan. To me, it feels like everyone is going to be thinking, why is Wisconsin not favored? I'm going to crush Wisconsin. So I look at Michigan to win that game, -1.5 in Madison in 2 weeks. Everyone's like, what did we last see? Michigan struggle. They go into Madison. They pull the upset. Well, they don't pull an upset. They take it. They get the road win, and they march on to another week. Michigan is favored in every game the rest of the year.
Now, you mentioned Notre Dame, Michigan. You mentioned Notre Dame, Virginia.
I'm contemplating going to that game.
If you
At the end of the month.
you were to go to that game,
I want to do it. I need to look.
How would you get tickets?
SeatGeek.
SeatGeek, America's #1 ticket app. Honestly, I'm going to say it, international #1 ticket app. Everybody's favorite ticket app around the world. SeatGeek, obviously our favorite ticket app here at the Dirty Sports Podcast, because SeatGeek is kind enough to do a promo code with us at Dirty Sports. It is promo code DIRTY, which will give you $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. I have been looking at tickets for numerous Rams games. Andy's out of town this weekend. He's on
Pretty good
Catalina.
game.
Yeah. Saints at Rams. I was thinking, maybe I go check out that Saints Rams game at the Coliseum. Last season in the Coliseum was on SeatGeek. I've talked about it before. I'll say it again. My favorite part of SeatGeek, every seat they will show you a view from your seat, which there's not really a bad seat in the Coliseum unless you're up in one of the corners. Like if you're midfield, it doesn't matter if you're in the last row, which I think we've actually sat in the last row. We were pretty close to the last row last year for Chiefs Rams, and it was a fantastic view. So I'm looking at potentially Saints-Rams this weekend, but definitely a Rams game coming up. I still haven't been to a Chargers game. Have you been to a Chargers game down there?
I've not. I really want to go. Yeah.
If you guys are out there looking for tickets for your local college football team or your local NFL team, perhaps your baseball team is making an October run, go to SeatGeek, use promo code DIRTY, get $10 off your first ticket purchase. There's over 50,000 5-star reviews for SeatGeek. That's pretty good. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone, and it's by far the easiest way to find tickets.
I do as well.
SeatGeek, again, will give you $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. All you have to do is use our promo code. Download the SeatGeek app today. Enter promo code DIRTY. SeatGeek!
SeatGeek!
This Week 2 NFL preview brought to you by SeatGeek. If you love SeatGeek, you're going to love this Week 2 preview.
You guys have waited long enough.
Yeah. We teased it out. We teased it out, and we teased it out, but here we are. How did you fare in Week 1 picking your games? And let's do a Tug Coker Week 1 recap before we jump into these Week 2 lines and storylines.
Week 1 was pretty solid because I picked the right games to play. There were a lot of favorites that covered. Week 2 is one of my favorite weeks of the year. I'll just say that because it's overreaction week.
Right.
Everyone looks at Week 1 and says that team is terrible. As a person who likes to bet dogs, I love Week 2. I think there's a lot of value in a lot of dogs this week. So I was shocked by I was on the Titans last week at 5.5. Way too many points. Did not think it would be the demolition derby that it was. That's ridiculous. Yeah. But that game and the other game that I really liked was the Colts. I liked the Colts, but I think they actually ended up pushing or losing, depending on what line you had.
Yeah.
Because the Chargers scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
In overtime.
So it ends up being 6 at the end.
I think it was 6. Yeah.
So before we get to the lines,
but I did like the Cowboys last week because not necessarily. I'm usually scared of the Giants. I'll recap this. I like a little hint. I do like the Giants this week, but I knew that Kellen Moore's offense would be a problem because it's pretty new. Like it was like a new wrinkle in this rivalry, so that takes time for people to adjust. So and also,
how much of that do you put on? I mean, it's clearly a combo of Kellen Moore, new wrinkle offense, and Giants defensive backfield, new to the league, new to covering guys. They're still not new to covering guys. They have not started covering guys. They will hopefully at some point start covering guys, but that was an abomination from their defensive backfield.
It was tough to watch, but I think part of I do follow a lot of football X's and O's on Twitter, and I think people talk about the cheat code in football. I talked about this before about the rookie quarterback deal.
Yep.
So this is going to be RIP to the Cowboys. If they don't get it done this year, they're in real trouble. I tweeted out they'll probably not win a Super Bowl in my lifetime again. The cheat code is play action. You have to play action all the time. The more offenses that play action, I think every team that play action more than 50% of their plays won last week. You have to play action. It's just linebackers are ingrained in stopping the run first, which opens up these slants and the other patterns, and that's what the Cowboys were doing so often. And I think the Giants just didn't have a chance to see what they were up to. So I think, the Giants, the defense is a work in progress. I agree with you. I listened to what you said on the podcast earlier in the week. Like, I don't think Eli was terrible. I'm excited about the Daniel Jones era, though, because he did look good in preseason.
Yeah.
Weird misuse of Saquon. This wasn't a great game. It's like throw that game out the window. A good game by Dak. Dak played really well, I thought. I'm excited about the second-year evolution of Michael Gallup. But I think I was going to say this earlier. I think the Giants are probably better than a 6-win team this year. I think the Vegas odds is 6. I think they get 6, maybe 7 games this year. I think they're better than it.
I said 8-8, which is something that, as a Giants fan, no Giants fan ever thinks the Giants are going 8-8 because the Giants either go 9-7, 10. No, the Giants are never going to win 12 games ever. They're not going to win 12 games. They're going to be a 9-7 to 11-5 team, or they're going to be a dumpster fire. Like 8-8 is almost unheard of from the New York Giants, but that's where I've got them at this year. And spoiler, I like them as well. But before we get into the lines, we have to talk 2 headlines from the NFL, the main 2 headlines. First of all, Sam Darnold has mono, like Andy Ruther. Now, did Andy Ruther contract it from Sam Darnold, or did Sam Darnold contract it from Andy Ruther?
Were they the same party?
Yeah.
Let's get to the bottom of that.
Just at a USC party?
Is there a 30 for 30 about Andy and Sam getting mono at the same time?
If I'm not a doctor, technically. I'm not a medical doctor. I am a doctor. I do have an internet doctorate, but
Congratulations.
I'm not a medical doctor. I believe mono you can only get once, correct? It's a viral it's a virus basically, and a lot of people get it high school, middle school, when they start making out for the first time, swapping bacteria.
Absolutely.
You catch your case of mono, which begs the question, forget Sam Darnold having mono. Was Sam Darnold a USC quarterback and first-round draft pick and has not made out with enough chicks in his life to have mono prior to this? Is this talk about the smudge on Popovich's career? I think if you're looking at the Jets going forward, your quarterback didn't catch mono before this? I don't know if that screams alpha to me.
First of all, doesn't Josh Rosen get some flack for having a hot tub in his
Yeah.
his dorm room? Why is Sam Darnold not have a hot tub?
Yeah.
I mean, we should have multiple hot tubs when you're a USC quarterback. The thing I want to say about Sam Darnold is, did he contract mono during the second half of the game? Because they were up last week 16-0.
Yeah.
So at what point did he get mono? Was it when they started to choke?
Yeah.
What's happening here? So it's a very interesting.
Did he go full Sanchez, full USC quarterback? Did he eat a bad hot dog on the sideline at halftime?
Yeah. I don't know where he contracted the mono, but I do know this. Their schedule, as you pointed out to me earlier, is brutal.
Yeah. So the schedule for the Jets coming up, and just a reminder to the great Kyle Aronofsky from our dirtball from New Jersey,
Fan.
who's a big Jets fan. We
Yeah.
have a bet on a Jets quarterback winning 10 games. So to win 10 games, you can't lose 7, right? So the message that I sent you earlier is the Jets schedule. Browns this week without Darnold. Patriots, a bye, Eagles, Cowboys, Pats, Jags. Do the Jets start 0-7?
They're looking at it just like 7 weeks to the Jags. They're like, how do we get to whatever the rookie quarterback's name is from Washington State? I will say this: I don't want to tease what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
You like the Jets this week?
I love the Jets this week.
I like the Jets without Darnold.
I love the Jets without Darnold. Trevor Siemian can win games, but it's not as much about Trevor Siemian and Sam Darnold at this point in their career. Probably not that much different. But to me, it's about Greg Williams being excited to destroy the team that didn't give him a head coaching job. And how fun is it going to be when everyone jumped on the Cleveland Browns bandwagon and they start the year 0-2? That's what I see. It's my crystal ball, guys.
Do the Jets win any of the games? Pats, Eagles, Cowboys, Pats.
No. And I don't think any of those games yes, I don't think they win any of those games. They might win. They might have a shot with one of the home game with the Patriots.
I'll save it until we get the line, but I think the Jets lose this week, and I think the Jets are 0-6, and their first potential win is against the Jaguars.
And Adam Gase will be he's already ornery.
And honestly, the team that I think they get the best shot against is against your Cowboys.
No! Home or away?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Twerks, can you look that up for us?
The other major NFL headline, Antonio Brown, Patriots Antonio Brown, has been charged in a civil suit for sexual assault by a former trainer. What's your take on the never-ending tale of Antonio Brown versus the headlines?
I think
Andy Ruther has already weighed in. He thinks this is a bunk charge. Says too many holes.
I see. I don't have the in-depth knowledge that Andy has on
Although
this.
Andy is an unabashed Antonio Brown defender, has been for years. I need a dirt ball. Too many people are focusing on the episode called Odell Beckham Jr. is a Diva. That is not where he said it, but I am certain that somewhere out there in the last 2 football seasons, Andy Ruther said Antonio Brown is not a diva. I'm certain that we have that on. I just need somebody to find it. Who will be the person that pulls Excalibur from the stone? Who will be the person that finds the clip
Oh,
where
well,
Andy Ruther says, where I force in a conversation about Odell Beckham, Andy Ruther to admit he believes that Antonio Brown is not a diva. I challenge you, dirtballs, to find it. Do not focus on the episode Odell Beckham is a diva. That is not where it exists.
I mean, how many times? I mean, we see it now. Like there was a dip a couple years ago with the ratings in the NFL. It's back up now. It's surging in NFL. But when are we going to learn to clearly separate our fandom from these what are just not great people? There's a lot of not great people in sports. And Antonio Brown is a player that I love to watch, but I have to understand that he's probably not a great person. I don't know anything about this particular
That's always
case.
that's always the thing for me. I don't know that I do it on purpose. There's definitely some homerism as a Giants fan, but that's the thing that always sets me off and makes me angry is like when the people that just take such joy in the trashing of Eli Manning, such joy in the trashing of LeBron James. It's like some of these guys are pretty good dudes. Now, I know LeBron James is tried to and failed. Trademark Taco Tuesday.
But he got what he wanted,
Yeah.
which is to know that he can't be sued
Yes.
when he says Taco Tuesday. It's a good spin on that. Good spin.
Yeah. I, by the way, I've tried to register my own trademark. I am trying to trademark happy hour. Happy hour meaning the hour post-work where you go to the bar
Yeah.
and you drink at cut rate prices.
That's a cool
I've
idea.
trademarked happy hour. So
Good
we'll
luck
see
with
how,
that.
yeah,
Good
we'll
luck.
see how that goes. I figure if LeBron can get take a shot at Taco Tuesday, Joe Prano, happy hour, TM. But like people always taking shots at the good guys, and then they're coming to defense under Kobe's Instagram trolling of a 7-year-old or Antonio Brown's. Like I saw somebody under an Antonio Brown rape joke yesterday with there's no proof that Ben Roethlisberger did. I'm like Ben Roethlisberger tried to catch 2 cases. he's got the bathroom and he's got the Tahoe TV repair.
It makes me think about a couple points. One, obviously, Antonio Brown has some things that he's working out. But what are the Patriots? I mean, the Patriots have obviously shown they're doing anything to win. They'll do anything
Right.
to win. But again, I'm curious that someone, maybe Belichick doesn't care. He's like, just give me the best
Show me a
players.
roster that doesn't have a rapist on it, Tug.
That's right.
YourTeamRapes.com. You want a list of sexual assaults, roster by roster? Check out YourTeamRapes.com. I just bought it.
Really?
Yes, YourTeamRapes.com. You think the Patriots are the only team that rape? YourTeamRapes.com.
Maybe there's some karma. Tyreek is free to play. Got hurt week 1. I don't know if there's some karma involved there. Who knows?
Does Antonio Brown is this Randy Moss to the Pats? Is Antonio Brown a record-setting receiver? Are the Patriots going 16-0?
I don't
The
think
Patriots defense is pretty fucking good.
Really good. Really good. You know what? This is the last. I used to be an unabashed Patriots hater. And somewhere along the line, I just started to turn, not necessarily hate them, but I don't care about Tom Brady, but I sort of respect their organization and the way they do things. Like, I think, Andy, you and I were on a text chain about, like, how Andy was all, in disbelief that, like, that this, but it had been in the works. The Patriots and Antonio Brown had conceived this as a long con. And my feeling is, as I said in the text, like, if you're a general manager who wanted Antonio Brown and you didn't do this, then you should be fired. Like,
you're saying, basically, unless you were tampering, you're not doing your job.
Exactly. You better be tampering. And you just pay a fine. Like the Lakers or whatever. Just pay the fine if you want to win. So the Patriots have this, they just don't care. They figured out every little loophole. And I've gone from hating it to sort of quasi-respecting it. I don't know how. I'm not saying I'm a fan of the Patriots. I won't root for the Patriots. I think it's the Chiefs and the Eagles Super Bowl. I still think the Chiefs find a way to get it done this year. They should have got it done last year. D Ford jumping off sides. But this team is ridiculous.
Yeah. We are going to go to the Week 2 lines.
Yeah.
Twerks is over here in the intern booth. Twerks, I'm going to turn you on, and I'm going to keep you on for the remainder of the episode. Now, Twerks, this is going to be the most work you've ever done on the Dirty Sports Podcast. I taught you, Andy Ruther has a thing. He loves to criticize interns. He also loves to not teach interns anything at all about the process of the Dirty Sports Podcast. I came here today and asked Twerks if he knew how to set up the lights, and he said, no, Andy has never let me do that. If you're running a production and your intern isn't setting up the fucking lights, you don't have an intern. Twerks is just basically here for the free drinks.
Let me just say this. My wife and I co-own and operate a wine shop. And the number one rule for us is we want to be able to walk away from the establishment and have it run as if we weren't there. If you don't have people helping you doing your job while you're in Catalina, you don't have a job.
Like the idea that I came here today and we had a misfire on the live stream because I'm setting it up and I'm doing, why am I doing this?
Yep.
I'm talent.
Agree.
There's above the line and below the
Correct.
line. Twerks is below the line. He doesn't know how to set up the fucking lights. And by the way, that's not Twerks' fault.
No, 100%.
That's not Twerks' fault. That's
It's
the
the CEO.
director's fault. That's
Yeah.
the CEO's fault. It's the executive producer of the show's fault that you don't know how to set up lights. So I'm going to do something that Andy Ruther never does. I'm going to challenge the intern to step up his game. What your job is for the remainder of the show is you are going to give us the game, you're going to give us the line, you're going to tell us who's home and away, and you're going to give us Andy Ruther's pick. You are Andy Ruther in this scenario. You're going to give us his pick for the game. We're going to give you ours. Then you're also going to write down who we picked in each game.
See, this is the
Twerks,
speech. This is the
something
speech
that you think that you can handle.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is the speech I wish Kobe.
Am I turned on?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the speech I wish Kobe
Are
would
you
have given
turned?
to the basketball
I am
player
now. Yeah.
dancer. But don't dehumanize this person. Inspire. Inspire.
You can lead an intern to water. There's some phrase that goes something like that.
Exactly.
But you can't teach him to give lines.
Let's go 16-0.
You're basically running the show at this point. Twerks, week 2 lines, Twerks with Wolves, you're on. Where are we starting?
We're going to start with Bucks Panthers Thursday night game tonight.
The Thursday night game tonight.
So we got Bucks are at the Panthers. Panthers are the favorite, and the line is -6.5.
-6.5. 6.5 is very big. Who did Andy Ruther take in this game?
Ruther chose the Bucks.
Ruther's got the Bucks.
God.
6.5 point line. I have sold my Panther stock, as I have said. I am off Cam Newton.
Oh, man.
But this is tough because it's also a Jamarcus Winston game. So 2 quarterbacks that I had never owned very much stock in. I owned a little bit of Cam Newton stock back in the day. As I said about Cam Newton when we were doing the many versions of the Russell Wilson debate, that if Cam Newton had had the Legion of Boom, and my point was Cam Newton also not incredible quarterback. Like I've never been super high on Cam, and it was Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl, and people are like saying I'm a Cam Newton fan now because I said, well, if you gave him a defense a la the Legion of Boom, he could go fucking undefeated. Which when he had a good defense, he nearly did. He went 15-1 and made the Super Bowl. Choked in the Super Bowl, and has been wearing shitty hats ever since.
Last week was very unusual.
Yeah.
Like he's had some
There's a
choices for his
bonnet.
hats, but I
There's a
do not
bonnet.
understand.
He looks like a
Sunday.
beekeeper.
I don't get it. That one I don't get. That one like a person who had mono in the 19th century. It's like walking around.
Yeah, he looked like he was like fucking out of Africa. So we've got Panthers 6.5 point favorites at home. Thursday night game. Thursday night games usually a dud.
Yep. Usually a slight advantage to the home team.
Who do you have in this first game?
Man, I really just want to fade Andy Ruther across the board.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
really tough.
It seems like the answer.
I have a thing up here, and I'll give it to you guys. Every week, the week before games are played, Vegas releases something called the look-ahead line. So it's basically a look ahead. You get a chance to look at the lines before they're influenced by the week 2. Let's say, for instance, the games are played for week 1. They'll release week 2. Last week, before week 1 was played, Panthers were -4.5. So we're getting 2 points of value just because Tampa Bay looked awful.
Yeah.
For that alone, I got to take the Bucs because I just like value. I'm a value better, and I'll take the 6 points in a divisional game. Maybe the short week is a chance for Jameis or Jamarcus to have a short memory, and Bruce Arians and get them pumped up, and they can score some points to keep the game within 6. Take the Bucs.
I want to fade Andy Ruther, and I have, as I said, sold all of my Cam Newton stock, but I never owned any Jamarcus Winston stock. I have been on the Jamarcus Winston is a gigantic bust from day one. Nothing has told me he was a bigger bust than Hard Knocks with the Tampa Bay Bucks, where he just seems like literally the team rolls their eyes every time he opens his mouth. He's not a leader. I am going with the Panthers simply for one man and one man only, not Cam Newton, but Christian McCaffrey. I think
the GOAT McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey has the welcome to the national spotlight game. You know, everybody who's a fantasy owner knows about Christian McCaffrey, but the casuals, as they call it, who will be watching a nationally televised game will get a full serving of Christian McCaffrey. I also think a lot of people, for some reason, and I'm not sure what it is, are desperate to hang on to the Cam Newton Panthers, that they're like, I don't know how you trash. I still think Cam lives on the border of good and great, and I think he resides there with Russell Wilson in a home. There's a border town, and, you know, maybe Russell's north of the wall, and Cam's just south of it. But they live in the same border. They live in the same border town.
What size pizza?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're both large cheeses.
Yeah.
They're like large.
No works on
They're like
there.
large thin crusts.
Yeah.
You know, they're like thin crust larges. They're like, you're not even really that full after it. There's no toppings whatsoever. Like if you showed up to a party of people, more than 5 people, and you only brought a single large thin crust, people will be like, what? Like, we're gonna have to order more pizza.
Yeah.
I'm going the Panthers to win and cover, and everybody stays on wrongly the Cam Newton Panthers bandwagon as like a team that they won't lie. I've never heard of somebody that gets more excuses than Cam. It's always like, well, he's hurt. Well, his receivers are terrible. Well, you know, Luke Kuechly. It's like the excuses that get rolled out for Cam Newton. I mean, I got blocked by Mike Freeman last year because Mike Freeman was saying Cam Newton MVP candidate. MVP candidate.
He did get hurt last year, and he still
gets hurt all the time because he's a tailback.
It looks like there's some residual effects. He didn't throw a ball over 15 yards in the game last week.
Yeah.
But they did still hang tough against, you know, what looks to be a still healthy and stout Rams team. So I see why you're going that way. I like to bet on the junk. I'm a junk better, so I'll take the Bucs. One thing I will say, a great follow on Twitter is Scott Barrett, who writes for Pro Football Focus, I believe, and he has a great nickname.
Nerd.
Yeah, he's a nerd. No, he's awesome. He has a great nickname for Christian McCaffrey, which I would like to catch on. Derry Sanders.
Derry Sanders.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid.
Twerks. What's our second game of the week?
Second game is Patriots at the Dolphins. Patriots, obviously the favorite. Huge line here. The line is Patriots at -18.5.
18.5.
18.5.
This line
By the way,
is
did Twerk get to weigh in on the game?
skyrocket.
Yes or no?
It depends. It kind of
Yeah,
goes.
we'll go to Twerk. we'll get Twerks' AFC West takes.
Yeah, okay. Who does Andy have for this?
Sorry. Andy has the Patriots. Yes,
I love
covering.
it. Good, finally. Okay, let me just give a couple. let me give a stat that I.
And this game is where?
This game is at the Dolphins.
Here's a stat. A reason why, like, my hatred for the Patriots has lessened, and I've kind of appreciated their malleability to do whatever it takes to win. They're not like there's no system. The system is we'll figure out ways to beat you. Case in point, everyone talks about personnel groups. Like the 12 personnel is basically one running back, two tight ends.
Yep.
And that's a predominant way to win in the league right now. Everyone's going two tight end sets. With Gronk last year, they did it more. Last night or Sunday night, they didn't do it at all. They used a 20 personnel, which is two running backs and zero tight ends and three wide receivers on 23 plays against the Steelers. That's the most by any team since 2016.
By the way,
And they use that, just to finish that note, they used that personnel, the 20 personnel, 8 times all last season. So that's what's cool about the Patriots is like we don't care about what we did to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
We're going to do whatever it is to win this game.
Yeah.
That's awesome. From a football standpoint, that's awesome to watch.
By the way, I've been trying to say this is like I feel like Bill Belichick is doing what Mike D'Antoni did for me in basketball, which is like I was saying for years, even as a young player, I'm like, I mean, I don't understand the mid-range game. Why would I stop when I could just keep going? Like I could just keep going to the basket.
Yep.
Why would I stop here and take a shot that is harder for me to make than a layup? Now, obviously, I will shoot from outside because it's worth 150% of the points. But now that's where the game's going. I have been a proponent, and I don't know why more teams don't do it, especially when a lot of teams are going running back by committee. I think the next iteration of this 20 offense is shotgun, split running backs next to you. Because the screen game is everything these days. Screen this way, screen that way, flare guys out. Especially as a Giants fan, when you have a guy like Barkley out there, like how do you defend Barkley lined up next to a quarterback and say your tight end in the backfield and Evan Engram on the other side of your quarterback in there to pass block, in there to pick up a blitz if need be, come out on the screen. I like Belichick going with the no tight end, 2 running back look. I think he's, as he always is, ahead of the game.
Yeah, and maybe that's who knows. That might be just for that particular game. But they have James White is such an asset in the passing game. I think he had over 100 yards both rushing and passing because they get him matched up with a linebacker.
Yeah,
it's just not. That's basically the key to NFL these days. It's like, where do we get your mismatch?
Now you heard the line and you heard Andy Ruther's picks and you were salivating because you're still taking the Dolphins.
I am. I'm taking the Dolphins.
All this.
Having said all this, it doesn't matter. It's a week-to-week thing. I believe in overreactions. They got the Ravens destroyed the Dolphins. The Dolphins are asking Dolphins players are asking to be traded.
Yeah.
However, the coach of the coach of the Dolphins, Brian Flores, what's his name? Is that
Flores.
He wants to lose. Obviously, they want to tank for Tua, but there is still some pride. Former Patriots coach. He doesn't want to get blown out by his mentor. Also, Patriots have really struggled in Miami the last 7 years. I think they've lost 6 or 7 there or something. I don't know what the exact number is. Really struggled. They lost last year in the miracle play.
Yep.
The look-ahead line for that game is ready for this? 11.
Yeah.
There's 7 points of value. I'm hearing it's moving to 19 in some places. I'll take an extra touchdown of value all day long. There's got to be some pride for the Dolphins, some familiarity with the Patriots. They can lose by 17 and they still cover. I got to go with the Dolphins here.
I'm going with the Patriots, and I don't think that the Patriots with Antonio Brown come out and score all the points that they did against.
Do you think he plays?
Yeah, I think he plays. And I just think I just don't know how this Dolphins team scores any points against this Patriots defense. And also, it seemed like with Belichick, it seemed like he really didn't want the Steelers to score a touchdown in that game. And I'm almost thinking, and like I hate.
It's true. They call it timeout, and I love they went to like a prevent.
Yeah, I believe like I do not believe in revenge Brady. I don't think that's a thing. I think Brady is the ultimate, and this is a compliment. I've always said that this is a compliment. I think he's the ultimate system quarterback. I think he's a guy who shows up, knows who the genius is. It's why he's always taking fucking less money. It's why he's always playing ball. He's just showing up and doing his job. And Bill Belichick, I believe in revenge Belichick, though. And I believe that Bill Belichick has heard the oh, Miami, every time you guys go to Miami, this is, I think, Belichick going like, oh, we can't fucking win in Miami. I think he's going to put the clamps on Miami, which is basically putting the clamps on themselves. So double clamped. I'm going like with like, you know, a 24-3 win. I'm taking the Patriots to cover. So we're split. We're 0-2 on our same picks already.
Which I think is great.
Yeah.
That's what the fans at home want.
I'm sure they'll come together because we've already previewed a couple of them. Twerks, what's game 3?
Also, real quick though, just to Tug's point, I looked that up. Patriots are 1-5 in their last visits to Miami.
Yeah.
So who knows? Game 3, we have the Cardinals going to Baltimore to face the Ravens, and the line is at the Ravens minus 13.5.
13.5, and Ruther's got?
Ruther has the Cardinals.
The look-ahead line here was
Look ahead, Tug.
9.5.
Yeah.
It tells you so much because everyone is, public perception is the blowout against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are terrible. We've just stated this.
Yes.
And so congrats to Lamar, who was my favorite player to pick in fantasy, by the way, and he's proving us all right.
Week 1, don't overreact.
That's correct. You might get hurt.
Yeah.
And then RG3's going to come in and have an incredible year. But no, I believe in Lamar. 9.5. It's now 13.5. Is that right, Twerks? Yeah. This is a game that I would lay off. I don't have a real feel for this game. I wouldn't be active on it. It's in Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So Arizona's got to travel east. 1:00 game. Tough defense for Kyler Murray, who struggled in the first half before they really started to literally air it out with the air raid. I don't know. I'm torn. I'm gonna take the Ravens on this because Andy Ruther took the Cardinals, but I also think like 14 is a number I think that's attainable with a defense that's very stout, and I think it could be like a 24-10, 27-10 game.
I've got, you've got Derry McCaffrey.
Derry Sanders.
I've got a Kyler Murray nickname that I'm rolling out right now, and I will be using excessively from here on out. Backdoor Murray.
Oh, boy.
Murray has fucking backdoor cover written all over him for eternity. He's going to lose every game of his NFL career, and he'll cover all of them because he'll be down 40 points, and then he'll go on weird fucking backdoor runs to pull within 13.5. I don't think this is a good game. I think that the Ravens win it, and I at no point do I think that anybody thinks that the Cardinals do win it. And here comes backdoor Murray. It's it could be a fucking porn series. Backdoor Murray, backdoor cover. I'm going with the Cardinals.
That's what Matt Stafford used to do, and Matt Stafford got Matt Stafforded.
Yeah.
Last week, but for years and years, I always thought Matt Patricia was the reason the Patriots were winning the Super Bowls. Not really. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, his tenure with the Patriots, the Lions
has been a disaster.
Less than stellar. I mean, you can't lose that game.
Yeah.
You cannot lose that game last week.
And they didn't, but they may as well have.
Well, they should have won the game. They were up the entire game.
You can't not win that game.
Yeah, you can't not win that
game. You
game.
play to not tie the
Exactly.
game.
So I have a lot of problems giving up 13.5, but I'm going to do it because Andy is on the Cardinals.
Game 4, Twerks.
Game 4, we have the 49ers at the Bengals, and the line is for the Bengals at -2. Andy chose the Niners.
Ruther's got the Niners going into Cincinnati and essentially upsetting his.
He just hates the Bengals. He just hates them so much. Did
the Bengals game against the Seahawks give you any sort of feeling that the Bengals are a team that could do anything in this NFL season? Because I think a lot of people have the Bengals as being right there with the Dolphins as potentially one of the worst teams in football.
Well, everyone that I follow or listen to said the Seahawks, the defense is not great this year, and we saw that with Andy Dalton throwing up 400+ yards passing against them. The problem is they only scored 20 points.
Right. His touchdown maker is out.
Touchdown maker's out. I am a shareholder of Tyler Boyd in some fantasy leagues. John Ross kind of pulled an Undertaker and rose from the dead
Yep.
to have a great game. Mixon's a little banged up, so Gio Bernard maybe getting the start this week. The Niners are staying in Ohio this week. They played in Tampa last week. They decided to stay in the Midwest, East Coast, stay in Ohio. I still think the Cincinnati Bengals win this game. I'm going to take the small line. I don't know why the Niners are favored in this game.
No, the Bengals are favored by 2. Correct? Bengals are 2-point favorites.
That's a flip from last week. The look ahead was the Niners minus 2.5. Changes my whole outlook. I'm still going to go with the Bengals. Bengals minus 2. Taking the Bengals.
I'm with you. I'm on Bengals to win and cover. I apologized to the 49ers and their fans last week for picking against them against Jamarcus Winston. I regret that. I don't think the Jimmy G train has left the station yet. I don't think that, we're going to see a Niners team that starts to compete in this division quite yet. I think that they are building something nice out there. I believe in their slow build, but I picked against you guys last week, and I apologize. So I'm sorry. I'm doing it again. I'm taking the Bengals to cover at home in Cincy. Too much chili for the Niners this week. They're
bloated.
They're there. They're having the skyline. It's terrible for you. So what do we got, Twerks?
All right, next game we got is the Chargers going to Detroit to face the Lions, and the line is for the Chargers at minus 2.5. And Ruther chose the Chargers.
2.5-point Chargers favorite in Detroit. Got a home dog here. Matt Patricia. I mean, I don't even think it's a question. I'm taking the Chargers. I'm taking the Chargers to cover.
Done. I'll take the Lions. I'll take the Lions, and here's why. Matt Patricia is an amazing coach. He's the reason the Patriots have won all their Super Bowls.
I mean, do you think the Lions win this game?
I do.
You think the Lions win this game?
I do.
It's the Tug Coker money line pick of the week.
No, it's not. Not even close. This is a game I wouldn't touch. I wouldn't touch the Bengals game. I wouldn't touch this game if I had to. But I'll take the Lions because of what I just said. Like, it feels like the value.
It's a trap.
It feels like a trap. The Chargers are just a tough team to invest in. Like,
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. But I think 2.5 against the lowly Lions.
Gotta win I know exactly.
Yeah,
but
a field goal game.
We see the Chargers struggle on the road sometimes. If there's any defensive pressure, that's probably the offensive line is Achilles' heel for the Chargers this year. You're going to see Hunter Henry's out for an indeterminate amount of time. You're going to see quick passes.
That kills Stephen A. Smith.
Because he loves him.
Do you remember last year when he was talking about Hunter Henry and like that?
Was he playing as a torn ACL?
He had been out for 17 full weeks.
I think
I don't know how they stop Hunter Henry. Well, he's been
stopped himself.
He's been inactive for 16 weeks.
Eckler's so good. Like,
yeah.
It really hurts Melvin Gordon, right? You can't ask for money when Eckler's going out there just balling out.
Yeah.
But having said all that, it just feels like the Lions are going to get this win and the Chargers are going to be 1-1.
Again, I'm a Phillip Rivers fan. I think Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. I want the Chargers to be good. I want there to be excitement around the Chargers. I love that the Chargers are going full-time yellow face masks. This is a fucking huge uniform bump for the Chargers. But to me, the Chargers, if there's ever a team of the playbook, just look incredible. Everybody's on the Chargers bandwagon. Phillip Rivers lets them down in the end. And, and Eli Manning sits back with his 2 Super Bowl rings and his feet up and laughs about that draft and laughs about anybody that ever slides in and says, oh, the Chargers won that trade and blah, blah, blah. And I just think that the blueprint is out there again for the Chargers to go into the playoffs, and everybody's like, oh, this Chargers team, this is it. This is the Chargers team, 14-2. I think Chargers win and cover. I just can't. For a 2.5-point line, I'm basically saying if I'm picking the dog, I think they're winning the game, and I can't see the Lions beating the Chargers. So I'm going the former San Diego Chargers.
Here's the thing, like usually the home game, the home team home field advantage is generally 6 points. So you're saying that the Chargers are 8.5 points better at home than the Lions? I would take the Lions in that matchup every time. So I just by that alone, I think I got to take.
Well, it'd be okay. I see.
See what I'm
see.
saying?
Yeah.
So the Lions should be 1-0. They're getting dinged because they weren't able to finish the deal. The Chargers, I watched that entire game. The Colts should have won that game. Vanderjet missed 2 field goals and an extra point. Game should be over.
Yeah.
Colts should have won that game. What we got next?
Next game we got is the Vikings at the Packers. The Packers are favored at -3. And Ruther chose the Vikings.
Ruther's on the Vikes.
Yep.
I'll take the Packers in this game.
I'm taking the Packers. I'm on the Packers. I'm on the Packers for one reason and one reason alone, not Mike McCarthy. Who's the coach of the Packers? Not Mike McCarthy. That's my season outlook on the Vikings. We made money on the Vikings. For everybody that's following the new Joe Prano 3 picks a week on Instagram, at Joe Prano on Instagram. The big money last week, I split the Rams game and I split the Fitzpatrick, more completions than Lamar Jackson, and we still came out plus 150 because we took the money line Packers. I'm taking the Packers to win at home. First of all, if the Packers defense plays as well as they played last week, and I just don't think that I don't think the Vikings are better than the Bears. And I know everybody's high on the Vikings. I think this is the Vikings overreaction line. 3? Come on. I'm going with the Packers.
I have to agree. You know, I saw a crazy stat this to start the year. It's an approximation, but like that the Vikings have given up 26 passing touchdowns in the past 2 years. Most teams do that in 1 year. Like their defense is legit.
Yeah.
I still think the Packers are figuring out this LaFleur offense. They did not look great on Thursday night. I'm sure there's some.
But they're also playing the Bears defense. Not a lot of teams do look good against the Bears defense.
I think the Bears defense and the Vikings defense are very comparable. I guess that's my point. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't think it's going to be like one of these shootouts that you hope for with Aaron Rodgers. There's so many games in Lambeau in the early start of the year when it's like warm out, and he comes out and just torches people. Just don't think we're there yet. So I think we see like a 17-10 game, but at 3 points you got to take. 3. It's 3, right?
3.
Gotta take the Packers.
All right, next up we have the Jags at the Texans, and the Texans are favored at -9. Ruther chose the Texans.
Is there any sort of what's his name? Minshew?
Yeah, Garrett Minshew.
Garrett Minshew?
Yeah.
Washington State Cougars. I know CT.
Mustache.
Yeah. CT
has a mustache, Joe.
CT has rented a Mustang from his own enterprise, and he's driving the Garrett Minshew bandwagon around the Pacific Northwest. But I liked this Jags team with Foles, but a week 2 first start matchup, and I think that the Texans are riding as high as any team could following a loss. Like I feel like the Texans probably feel great about the loss in New Orleans. Back and forth, but they hung with a perennial contender. Watson looked great. I'm on the Houston Texans.
Watson is so much fun to watch.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable how much fun he is. And then they added they added Kenny Stills, which is just a nice little third option.
Yeah, Fuller's healthy.
Whenever Fuller's healthy, he's just great. D-Hop catches everything.
Yep.
Even Carlos Hyde looked pretty good. And so you have a two-headed monster with Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde. Like, that offense is good. I'm going to take the Jags here for one reason. 2 reasons, actually. I do think it's a letdown spot for the Texans. I think it is hard to come up from that game. I think they got their heart ripped out from the game 1, so I do think it's a little sluggish. And they probably take this game a little bit for granted. They think we got a second stringer coming in. We should win this game. The look-ahead line was 3 points. Are you telling me that Nick Foles is worth 6 points of value? from Minshew, who was like 21 for 22, one of the best games that a rookie quarterback or a backup quarterback has ever played. Granted, it was against a weak Chiefs defense. I love Fournette this year. I like the familiarity of the teams. I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars +9.
All right,
Hard
next.
for me when you make that pitch not to go against Andy Ruther, which is really the deciding factor here. But I'm going. I've already made my bed. I will sleep in it.
It is a podcast. I could just say, what's Andy going? I'm going to go the opposite.
Yeah.
All right, next game we got is the Bills at the Giants, and the Bills are favored at -1.5.
Bills will play.
We already know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We
Bills,
already know. What did
Bills
Andy
play
take?
their first.
Ruther took the Giants.
Oh, no.
He's killing us.
Oh.
He's killing us. I hate. Well, I don't hate picking the Giants, but I didn't think that there'd be any. I didn't think there'd be a ton of Giants in my 3 picks of the week on Instagram at Joe Prano on Instagram for my 3 picks of the week. But this Giants game really wants to sneak in there because Giants at home. Like I could just see this as being the Bills offense isn't even the Cowboys offense. So I don't think that they're going to just torch a Giants defense. And if there's one thing that Pat Shurmur maybe takes away from week 1 is people criticizing 10 touches for Barkley. 10? You're going to give him 10 touches? 10? I think he gives him 25 touches, and I just think that this could be the Saquon Barkley show. Saquon Barkley. I'm taking Saquon Barkley -1.5 over the Buffalo Bills.
I can't wait to see a prop bet maybe on Joe Prano on Instagram this week with Saquon Barkley. I mean, the Bills are good. The Bills are an improved team this year, and their defense is legit.
And I think the Giants win it outright.
Did you know? This is a fantasy stat. The Buffalo Bills gave out they quarterbacks scored the fewest points against the Buffalo Bills last year than any other defense. Very stout passing. So I think I agree with you. We're going to see Saquon show out on Sunday. But my feeling is maybe, and I don't know how you have to tell me as a person from the New York area. Does the little brother get up for a game like this? Do they want? Do they want to own the state of New York? Do they care? The Bills?
Well, the Bills have, I believe, their first 4 games in the state of New York. They're Jets last week. They're at Giants. So the Bills don't even leave the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
And then I believe 2 home games in Buffalo. I'm not sure. Has there ever been a 4 consecutive weeks in the same state? I'm sure it's happened in California. But the Buffalo Bills don't have to leave New York, but I think they leave the metropolitan area with an L on them this week.
I'm going to take the Giants. Oh, man, I should just really fade Andy automatically.
I need you here because if you fade Andy, then it's just me and Andy on an island.
Yeah.
And then I'm
all right, for the good of humanity. I'm going to go Giants here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'd like to see a little bit more improved offense, but I think I always like to take teams when they go on national TV and don't look their best. And the Bills came out with a win last week, should have lost. So it just seems like an opportunity to take the Giants.
All right, next up we have the Seahawks at the Steelers, and the Steelers are favored at -4.5.
And Andy took the Seahawks.
Ruther took the Seahawks.
Ruther took his boy, Russell Wilson, who somebody caught a bye forever last night. Dustonian, you Russian bot, you've been in my mentions for God knows how many years with your robotic, nonsensical conspiracy theories. But when he actually doubled down on his claim last night, he believed this. He believed that the Seattle Seahawks offensive line is truly 5 guys who are elite run blockers and incompetent pass blockers. That's what he thought the problem. That's why Russell Wilson, that's how the Seahawks managed to always have a dominating run game. And Russell Wilson gets sacked 3rd most in the league last year, despite being the 20th in attempts in the league. That was his theory. His theory is they have put together a 5-man. They have found 5 separate men from across the universe that are all elite run blockers and horrific pass blockers. My theory, of course, is that Russell Wilson holds the ball too long, and not that they have found 5 men who are only good at one aspect of blocking. That's my theory. But he doubled down on that, and so he caught the bye forever. Destonian, bye forever. It's my new rule this year. I will not put up with idiocy. I will not be concentrating on actually watching the games because I'm dealing with idiocy. And if you believe that the Seattle Seahawks issue run to pass is that they only draft and start guys who are not competent, but elite in one aspect of blocking and horrific in the other, who are these people and how do they find them?
So who we liking?
So it's in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh coming off of the big loss. I want to take Seattle in this game. What is it? What's the line? 4.5?
4.5.
4.5 is tough. It seems like it should be a 3 or 3.5 point game.
I agree.
It's tough for me. God, I want to take Seattle, but Ruther's on Seattle.
Big Ben's great at home.
But then
Always.
I'm taking Pittsburgh. I'm taking Pittsburgh to bounce back off of New England. I'm taking if Andy Dalton's throwing for 400 yards against the Seahawks, what's Big Ben doing? It's tough because Russell would love to backdoor this. 4.5's big, but I'm going Pittsburgh.
I'm going Pittsburgh as well. I like Pittsburgh in this spot. The look-ahead line was 3.5, which feels more right. 4.5 feels like a lot. So people are actually putting money on the Steelers after seeing what they saw on Sunday Night Football. That to me is interesting. Everyone knows Belichick designs their defense to take away their best player. Juju had an okay game, not great. But also anytime, even though the Chiefs came in and beat them a couple years ago in Foxborough, like Belichick owns the Steelers.
Yeah.
Owns them. And Tomlin is just, not good enough to make any adjustments.
Tomlin's one of the, if not the most overrated coach in the NFL.
We've talked about this before, you and I, but I feel like this is a game where it's like, you know what? We're playing against a defense that's not as good, not as well coached as the Patriots. The Seattle Seahawks are still working out what their offensive identity is. It sounds like they're elite run blockers and incompetent pass blockers.
And they found 5 of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing on the street. But I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in a get-right game for Big Ben. And I think it's one of those games where I think we see a lot of points in this game.
By the way, I could absolutely see the Seahawks winning this game. I'm not touching this game. I would never bet any money on this game, but I agree. I think it's a bounce-back game. If the Seahawks had managed to lose that game against the Bengals, this is a different story. But I think the Seahawks being 1-1 after 2 weeks seems right to me. Beating, having a close game against the Bengals at home and then going into Pittsburgh and upsetting the Steelers, it could happen. I just don't.
It's also a 1 o'clock game, which is surprising to me because it feels like 2 pretty good, like nationally recognized teams. It feels like a 4:25 game or something like that. But so maybe the early game is just a small advantage for the Steelers too.
Twerks.
Next game is the Colts at the Titans. Titans are favored at -3.
Titans.
And Ruther chose the Titans.
Ruther likes the Titans. Ooh. Ruther's on Jacoby Brissett and the Colts. He liked what he saw from the Titans. Is this an Andy Ruther overreaction from the Browns blowout game? Are the Titans at all for real in terms of winning that division?
I'm going to go with the Titans here. I wavered on this one. This is a tough one for me. Because I watched the entire – I'm a Jacoby Brissett apologist. I think he actually is solid. And he played really well last week. He was not the reason they lost last week. Ebron drops a wide-open touchdown in the end zone. Vinatieri misses 2 field goals and an extra point. They should come out here 1-0. But they did last week 17 last year, Colts versus Titans. Winner gets into the playoffs. This is a bit of a revenge game for the Titans. Titans didn't play great against the Browns. Don't let the score fool you.
Yeah, the Browns shot themselves in the foot
they
repeatedly.
weren't great. But
the Browns unloaded an AR-15 into their foot.
They did. They really did. I think I'm not a believer. I wanted to believe in Mariota. I really wanted to. I'm still not there yet. But they trying to get Derrick Henry involved. He caught a long screen for a touchdown. Looks like they're making some subtle changes to the offense. To me, it's just enough. Against my desire to go with Andy, I'm going to go with the Titans here.
I'm also going with the Titans. By the way, people have accused me of sort of, throwing Jacoby Brissett out immediately, and my only he did look solid, and I think he could look solid, and that's great. My only Brissett, attack was the trade Eli Manning to the Colts right now, because what I said and what I stand by is you are not winning the Super Bowl with Jacoby Brissett. You're not. Meanwhile, if you told me this year that they're coming in with a healthy Andrew Luck, and I go, well, the defense is going to continue to improve. That offensive line, I mean, Quentin Nelson's the only he's the first ever playmaker I've seen on an offensive line.
You saw that block he just actually decleated some day last week.
You would never describe it's like the one position in football where it's impossible to be a playmaker. It's like if you're doing your job, no one knows that you're doing it, right? It's just like, oh, well, he just held, J.J. Watt sackless. But, that goes unnoticed, Quentin Nelson is the first ever playmaker on the offensive line where he's doing things where you're like, how is he doing it?
And he didn't declare just anybody. That was Melvin Ingram from the Chargers.
Yeah. So, with that offensive line, with that defense, with that running game, the idea
and coach, I think Frank Reich's a really good offensive coach.
I just don't think that you could tell me before the season with all that and Andrew Luck that you would have been beyond shocked that they appear in a Super Bowl. But with Jacoby Brissett, I say I would be beyond shocked if they appear in the Super Bowl. That's why I called for free my boy, get the Daniel Jones era started early, give Eli one last shot at a title with the team, because I think it's the difference between being solid and having Super Bowl pedigree. And sorry, I don't see that from Brissett. He'll play well. This will be a close game. That being said, I'm on the Titans.
You've got Brissett and Brissett in the same conversation. That's all the respect for you.
Jacoby, Josie. I often call him Josie. I'm just sticking with Josie from now on. It's just Josie.
When you think about the skill players on that team, though.
Hereinafter referred to as Josie.
Josie.
For you lawyers out there.
Marlon Mack.
That one's for Twerks. Hereinafter.
T.Y. Hilton. Funchess broke his clavicle last week, but they have a couple young rookie, Paris Campbell. I really like this team. It's just they have a tough start to the year, going on the road to San Diego, on the road to Tennessee. It's tough. We'll see.
Tennessee.
So just make sure I got this right. You guys all went Titans, right?
Yes.
All right. Next game we got is Tug's Cowboys coming into Washington to face the Redskins. I guess DC, right? Yep. And the line is for the Cowboys at -5, and Ruther chose the Cowboys.
Your Cowboys team, Tug.
How about them Cowboys? You know what? I only like placing money on the Cowboys when they're an underdog. Do not trust them as favorites. I did like them last week because the line was so big. The Giants-Cowboys series, you just got to trust the linesmaker there. I'm going to go with the Redskins here because Redskins have given some fits to the Cowboys in Washington in the past. Everyone saw Cowboys being amazing. Now we have week 2 where people have some tape on the Kellen Moore offense. And Keenum wasn't bad. Played pretty well, actually, against the Eagles. They did have a backdoor cover. I can see that happening again. I'm going to go with, because Andy's on the Cowboys, the Washington Redskins.
I agree wholeheartedly. I could see another backdoor cover. I could see another game where the Redskins come out. I agree with them having tape on the Cowboys. I also agree with, and don't get me wrong, I feel like everybody has to say this because everybody just says it's ludicrous that he turned down $30 million. So I think it's ludicrous that Dak turned down $30 million. At the same time, I like Dak, but I think Dak is inconsistent. And I think the idea that, Dak will have one great game and one mediocre game. And last week he had a perfect game. By quarterback rating, he literally threw a perfect game. So Does the pendulum swing back that far? I just don't see you getting two great performances back-to-back from Dak. Backdoor cover. Backdoor Redskins.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Redskins win this game. It's never that easy for the Dallas Cowboys. Like to be 2-0, look both in division as well. It's a trouble spot for me.
Twerks, you're up.
All right, next up we have our AFC West matchup of the week. We got the Kansas City Chiefs coming into Oakland to face the Raiders.
Yo fool.
Yo, fool.
Yo fool.
And the Chiefs are favored at -7. Ruther chose the Raiders.
The Raiders. He's on the Raiders. Frijoles negros. The black hole. Hole negros.
This is a tough one, Joe. The Raiders, I believe, have beaten the Chiefs the last 2 years in Oakland. I'm going to go with Kansas City here, and it's strictly just an Andy Ruther fade.
I'm going Kansas City here on the. It's good for the Raiders. They had the Antonio Brown saga, and they come out week 1 and they get a win, and everybody's pumped. But like, there's no doubt in my mind that this Chiefs team is good, and if you're gonna show the world that you're like, we don't give a fuck that Antonio Brown's on the Patriots. We're here to fucking go to the Super Bowl. You have to do it by slaughtering your division rivals. And I think the Chiefs scalp the Raiders in Oakland. Twerks, you are a Native American, so you might have been offended just by that description. And you're also a Raiders fan.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this game versus the Chiefs in Yo fool, Oakland?
Yeah, Native American and unabashed Raiders fan. And I know on the podcast I've given some hot takes, and the Raiders will go 22-1 and whatnot. This is a tough
the one?
game. No, the one was the preseason. Honestly, I don't think the Raiders win this game. I think it's gonna be a really tough game, but I do think they cover. They always play the Chiefs pretty tough. And just to kind of give kind of like my take on them after last week's performance.
Abram out for the season.
That hurts, but I will say that the key takeaways I had from that Raiders game was that it was nice to see that their top 3 picks all look like they're going to be performers in the league, which it's hard to draft good players at all, but to draft them, at the right spot is even harder. And the fact that, their first 3 looked great with Jacobs, Farrell, and Abram. It's looking good for Mayock and Gruden right now. And then the other key takeaway I had was that
Mike Maycock, as I call him.
Yeah, for Maycock. The other key takeaway, though, was
although he ended up cutting him, so maybe I can retract the Maycock.
Right,
when he was going to
right.
play him week 1 after getting called a cracker, they're full Maycock.
Yeah.
So maybe he heard.
I think so.
Maybe he heard people referring to him as Mike Maycock.
Yeah, and the last thing, too, is that the Raiders' line actually looked really good against a tough front 7 from the Broncos, and Carr was able to step up in the pocket and not get the happy feet we've seen. So he's looked like he's made some strides in that area. I'm excited to see what they can do. I don't think they win, but I think they cover.
I also like what I've seen from the Raiders, and I am excited for you, and I'm excited for the city of Las Vegas, and I'm excited for Raiders fans everywhere. I don't know that John Gruden is like the future of this Raiders team. Like I think
it's a 10-year deal,
right? But I'm saying, but I could see, and I said this before, I could see the move to Vegas, and Gruden's deal remains in place while he is removed from the head coaching position and is just running the weekly Raiders show, a la Robert De Niro in Casino from a casino floor in Vegas. He's doing the John Gruden show. He's like, He replaces Maycock as the GM, and he's just doing a fucking Vegas show every night. He's got a Vegas residency, and he turns the team over to somebody else. But I like that they're knock on wood and believing
You with
with Gruden. But that being said, I think the Chiefs I just think their offense is too much.
It's a game I wouldn't touch. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders. They've proven the past couple of years they can play with them in Oakland. Derek Carr has been, and for fantasy purposes, a QB2 and a QB4 overall the last 2 years that the Raiders have played Kansas City in Oakland. He feels comfortable playing that team. And also, I thought Tyrell Williams looked great. And it's really gonna be a Josh Jacobs game. If he could, keep the Chiefs' offense off the field, then they got a real shot. But I'm simply fading him because Andy's on him.
We got to keep this moving. Tug, we're pushing 2 hours because we're the Twin Towers.
Exactly.
2 hours with the Twin Towers.
That's the title.
Yeah.
That's the title.
All right, next game is the Bears at the Broncos. Bears are favored at -2.5, and Ruther chose the Bears.
Ruther's on the Bears.
Yes.
Hey,
finally.
you get a home dog.
I like the Broncos in this game. The Bears, there's some of the beat writers in Chicago are saying there's some real confidence issues with Trubisky right now. People are questioning his ability to lead. They're questioning his ability to perform in big moments. I was impressed by him last year against the Eagles in the playoff game. I thought he played really nicely. But there's been talk all preseason about him in summer camp, training camp, not making strides, not growing in the offense.
He missed just straight up wide open.
Just missing targets.
Passes last week.
Yeah, and I also think the Vic Fangio thing is an issue. You know, he's playing against his old team, knows what they want to do defensively, knows Trubisky's strengths and weaknesses, having played against him in practice, all of last year. And Denver is like, I don't know what the record. It's like they have like a ridiculous record in September at home. They're like, it's like 20-2 in like the last 4 years.
I love the Broncos at home here. I love the Broncos defense against Trubisky. I love the Broncos defensive pass rush against Trubisky. I think Trubisky not making strides. Also, last week struggled against a Packers team that everybody says, oh, no way they're going to play defense. Now, they're obviously an improved defense, but Denver, not the defense they once had, but still basing their entire, persona as a football team around playing ball control and playing good defense. The idea that they're underdogs to a Bears team that scored 3 points last week at home in Denver seems crazy to me. I'm also on the Denver Broncos.
The look-ahead line was a pick, which I think is actually the line. There's in no way do I think the Bears should be favored in Denver. It just doesn't make any sense. They didn't show me anything, and everyone's seeing like, oh, the Broncos kind of laid an egg against the Raiders. They're not very good this year. But you just gotta take the home dog here.
Next game is the Saints at the Rams.
So we're both on the Broncos there.
Yeah,
got it.
Got that one. Saints at the Rams. Rams are favored at -2.5.
This is an interesting game. Who's Ruther got? Ruther's got his Rams?
Saints.
Ooh, Ruther picking against his own team at home. Rams are a favorite, obviously, at home, but it's a small line. Are the Saints able to come into the Coliseum and beat the Rams? I think they are able to come in and beat the Rams. I think they do come in and beat the Rams.
Wow.
Going with a money line pick here. I think the Saints come in and beat the Rams.
Is it Joe Prano on Instagram pick?
I don't know if that's going to be one of my 3 locks, but it's tough because I still like this Rams team. But, I mean, talk about revenge games.
I think
the game that was stolen from them.
I agree. Couple factors there. One, how emotionally drained are they from the incredible performance of Monday Night Football? Do they get up again for a revenge game? It seems important to them. However, the heartbeat of that team is a 40-year-old man. How much does he really care about a revenge game? Is he thinking long game? Is he really thinking like I need to avenge last year's loss in week 2, or are we thinking like let's just take this game as we take every other
find
game?
me the over under on this while we pick it too. I'm gonna pound the shit out of the under. That might be my
under
pick.
I think the under's not a bad call as well, and I'm gonna go with the Rams here. 1, because it's Andy Ruther fade, but 2, I just feel like. It feels like a letdown spot for me. Like everyone feels like it's a revenge game. I'm going to go the other way on that and take the Rams here. Everyone's talking. Gurley is in a committee now with Malcolm Brown. I see Gurley playing well in this game, and the Rams move on to 2-0.
The over/under is at 52.5.
I'm going. That might be one of my picks.
I think unders sounds good there.
Yeah. It's just everybody's going to see the sun shining in the green grass of the Coliseum. Everybody's on 2 high-powered offenses. I think it's a slug-it-out game.
The look ahead was a field goal. Rams at 2.5. It feels like it's an auto bet for me on the Rams just to get the half point of value. But who knows? Good game, man.
I think the Saints win this game, and there's a chance that they do make my pick. I think my pick. Well, we'll save it, but I also do not think it's a sure thing by any means that they win the game, and I could see them just covering in the weird short cover. But I think it'll be a great game. Do you have any consideration in attending that game, Tug? Are you not?
My folks are in town. Otherwise, I think it'd be a strong yes. But but in that vein, I want to say this: the NFL has a real problem with the afternoon games. There's not enough, and they're often not good.
Well,
this game is good, but the other games are.
It tends to be almost always like the West games.
Correct.
Which it just seems like they could always. Why can't you just grab a couple of other Eastern or Central time zone games and just play them later?
Especially in the
I
early
understand
part
you
of
can't
the
play
year.
them early. You can't play the West games earlier. You can't play a 10 a.m.
Correct.
West Coast game.
But in September, the light is still good. Like it's
Yeah.
an afternoon game on a Sunday. Like, don't give us just Raiders, Chiefs, Bears, Broncos, and Rams, Saints. Like, throw in 2 more games. So, like, we'll see it throughout the year. Like 2 afternoon games, and it'll be like the Cardinals, who aren't good, playing the Lions. So NFL, come on.
if I end up going to this game, I'm putting in an early request right now with Andy Ruther. Andy, if you listen to this episode, I'm putting in a request. If I end up going to this game, I may switch my pick to the Rams just so that I can root for them. But for now, I'm on the Saints. Let's go, Twerks.
Wait, Tug, you chose Rams, right?
Correct.
Okay. Next game is Eagles-Falcons. The Eagles are away going to the Falcons, and the Eagles are favored at -1.5. Ruther chose the Eagles.
Ruther's on the Eagles. Tug, this is your Super Bowl pick.
It is.
The Eagles.
Yep.
You're a Howie Roseman slurper.
I do think he's really good. And he got fired by who? Who fired him? Chip Kelly. Came back a year later. Chip Kelly is an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
And
fired a white guy. Who saw that coming?
that's true. The line is what?
1.5.
Eagles 1.5.
Yeah. At Atlanta.
Home dog again. I'm going to take in prime time. Everyone again. The Vikings defense doesn't give up passing touchdowns. They completely shut down Matt Ryan last week. Matt Ryan also lost in Week 1 last year against the Eagles in a very low-scoring game. It was against Nick Foles, but they seem like to be a slow burn. One stat I like for Falcons fans and fantasy fans: the Falcons play 3 games outside all year, 13 games in a dome. Come on, let's light it up. This is not one of those games. This game's in a dome. I like him to get hot. I like him to play fast. I like the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. This is not a game that they win. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons.
I'm also on the Atlanta Falcons. I just think as good as the Eagles are, I know it's Week 1, and I don't think this is an overreaction. I don't think that says what the Eagles are or aren't long term. But I just think in Week 1, if you're a Super Bowl team, if you don't come out and step on the neck of the Redskins, something is amiss. And they ended up obviously playing great in the second half. But I'm on the Falcons. Falcons burn me every year, I feel like, because I'm on the Falcons. But they always tend to burn me late. Like if they go 0-2, they're burning me from the get-go. So I'm also on the Falcons on this game. And we're also fading Andy Ruther.
Correct. That's all that matters.
Last game of the week, we got our Monday night game. The Cleveland Browns going to New York to face the Jets, and the Browns are favored at 2.5. Ruther chose the Browns.
I teased it earlier. If Sam Darnold was playing this game,
This game's 2.5?
yeah. Who knows what the line is actually going to be if it moves at all with Trevor Siemian coming in?
Right.
I can't imagine that Sam Darnold's going to move the line that much.
What about the Le'Veon Bell news?
He's getting an MRI today, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so everyone would go out there and get Ty Montgomery. There's a lot of talk from the beat writers that Ty Montgomery is going to be more active in this year.
Now, again, this is Ruther's line from last night. The ESPN, and I just because it's accessible, ESPN has this line listed at Cleveland -6.
Well, that's the Sam Darnold news.
Yes, that's the Sam
so
Darnold news.
do you want to go? Well, we got to go with.
Well, we've got Andy Ruther's picking here.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter to me. The New York
you
Jets
think the
are
Jets
winning this game.
game?
New York Jets are winning this game. Trevor Siemian has won games in the NFL before. I think it's about the one of the Achilles heels. Now, it'd be nice if Quinnen was playing, but one of the Achilles heels for the Browns is their offensive line. They're not great. And if you have trouble getting Baker time to throw, I think they're still trying to figure out systems to put his playmakers in good space, place to play. Like, I understand Odell's a deep threat, but what we saw successful with Eli and Odell were these slants. Like, just give him the ball early and let him work.
Yeah.
You know? I need to see more of that yet. I don't know if we're there yet with Baker and Odell. It may take a while, even though he had a bunch of targets.
Ruther's on the Browns?
I think the Jets win this game here. It is a revenge game from last year. They played on Thursday Night Football. And then Tyrod Taylor got hurt that game. Baker came in mid-game. I know the Jets, for a fact, don't like Tyrod Taylor, and they don't like Baker Mayfield. But also Greg Williams doesn't like any of those people over there. He's going to be fired up. He's going to be putting his safety like he likes to do 30 yards deep. I see a revenge game for Greg Williams, and they go 1-1.
Browns win the game. Browns cover our line. Browns do not cover the post Sam Darnold line.
Like a field goal game.
That's does not affect us in terms of the Dirty Sports Pick'em, but just an FYI, if you listen to this show and you take our you take our advice in terms of your gambling life, as far as this game goes, I think Odell shows out in a return to MetLife. I think the Jets start 0-6. I think it's a close game, but Jets going to Jets. I think Sam Darnold watches the game from the sideline inside a bubble. He goes full bubble boy, or possibly in a glass house on Staten Island. They've got him just across the Verrazano. They've got him in a glass case. I think the Browns win. I think the Browns cover the Andy Ruther line. I think the Jets cover whatever the end up. If it ends up falling 5.5, 6 in there for betting purposes. And those are our games, correct? Update for all those who care. My New York Mets. Oh, I thought that was. Oh, it is. Yeah, the Mets are up 11-1. They're going to 4-game sweep this Arizona Diamondbacks team, who was hot as shit before that. The Mets
pulled an Undertaker. They kind of rose up.
I put the nail in the coffin. I said, shut down DeGrom. I said, let Alonso swing for the fences solely to break the home run record.
He did.
Yeah.
Last night.
The Mets don't quit. That's I'll give them a little bit of credit on that. They don't quit. It's almost like they need people to say, I still think your season's done.
Hey,
I got to do whatever it takes.
What did my namesake say so many years ago, Tug McGraw? You got to believe.
You got to believe.
He's a former Met, guys. 1-69.
Twerks, we kept you too long, didn't we? A
little bit. I'll be okay.
Twerks is that sound is Twerks zipping his bag to go to class. Tug, 2 hours with the Twin Towers. That's either the title or
is that our new podcast?
or Verlander and Upton are American royalty. One of those two is the title. I think it's gonna be 2 hours with the Twin Towers in honor of 9/11 being yesterday. Tug, where can everybody find you? What do you want people to know about what's going on in Tugland?
A couple announcements, guys. You can
Twerks,
find me.
Feel free to just go out the door.
Thanks, Twerks. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Tug Coker. I'm launching next week for those of you. This is a more subtle take, but a podcast with my wife where we talk about. My wife is a sommelier, so if you have a friend or family that loves
Bless
wine,
you.
yeah, bless you. Thank you. Gesundheit. It's coming out next week. Really excited to announce that. So follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Get you some great ideas on beer, wine, and of course some malted sparkling beverages. And I've been talking to Andy Ruther about this. There's some rumblings in the works. Now that I have some I really want
DSPN exclusive.
This is a DSPN exclusive, guys. Please let Andy or Joe know that I want to build together a little half-hour weekly show for DSPN.
Half hour with the single tower.
Half hour with the single tower. Where we talk about sports, quick hits on betting lines and things like that, and just talk some shop. So that's something you're interested in. Please let me know on Twitter and Instagram, and let Andy, Joe, and Dirty Sports know.
I mean, I think I as the most important member of the Dirty Sports
Thank you.
Podcast Network, we'd be happy to have you.
It'd be great to grow under the umbrella.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So let us know. But anyway, thanks. Thank you to you, Joe. As always, always fun to be with you. And big thank you to Andy. Feel better, buddy. Feel better in Catalina with your mom.
Stop tongue kissing Sam Darnold, you weirdo. At Joe Prano on Instagram, 3 picks coming your way. I'm not sure that any of them will involve this Thursday night football game. I have sold all my Cam stock, and Jamarcus Winston doesn't seem like something I'll touch. So follow me on Instagram at Joe Prano for my 3 locks between now and Sunday. At Fix Your Life on Twitter. At The Dirty Sports Podcast on all social networks. At Andy Ruther on all social networks. And, of course, the most important thing that we can always say, rate, review, and subscribe, but mostly review the Dirty Sports Podcast on iTunes. It's great for keeping us up in those charts. Write your review, and not myself, but Andy Ruther will send you 2 Dirty Sports koozies. So write your review, and maybe your review can include how I made you $150 last week if you're playing Joe Prano's 3 locks. So write a review if I made you money last week. God damn it. And that's our show. Tug, thank you as always for filling in. You filled in. You always fill in so nicely for me. I think you filled in even nice. Technically, you're still filling in for me. You're filling in for me over
Yes,
there.
on the
I'm
left
filling
side.
in for Andy
I'm on
Ruther.
the left. That's right.
You did the tremendous job you always do filling in for me.
Thank you,
I
Joe.
did a tremendous job filling in for Andy Ruther.
Incredible job.
Hopefully, Andy Ruther is in a bubble on Catalina. And hopefully, he can clean himself up. But for now, Andy Ruther and all you dirtballs out there, stay dirty.